Hello and good day, and welcome to the next episode of the Urein Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. This is episode 6. And thank you so much for listening. We just
That's
want to
six. That's six in English. Just wanna.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Still trying to wake up here, man. It's this is not Jack. Episode 6. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is one of those episodes where we are pushing through it because our body clocks say we want to sleep through it, but we're going to fight and deliver you the news that you want to hear. So happy Friday, or whenever it is that you're tuning in on this one. Hello, Isaac. I said it right this time.
You did. I'm glad after years of knowing me, you've got my name right.
Yeah, well, anyways, enough about it. Today is a double shot Friday.
You sure that's not Jaeger?
I'm sure, because that stuff will wake up your nose hairs.
It's like medicine.
That, my friend, is a good way to kick the morning off. Follow it down with a cappuccino. How are you today, sir?
Doing good. Enjoying my cup of coffee.
Thank you for dropping in that sponsor.
Today's good mood is sponsored by coffee.
Amen to that, buddy. And this episode is, of course, brought to you by the Urein Ordonez 5 Diamond Group. We are a group of specialist realtors here in Las Vegas. And today, we are going to walk through a couple of items. First being, let's get the forecast, man. We've been stuck in this. What do we call this? I call it the oven. 105 weather every day, 80s at night. Can't even cool off unless you've got a pool.
What was it? Yesterday or the day before? I was out showing homes and it was cloudy, and I looked at my my car and it said 105, and I was just like, how is it cloudy and 105? So definitely oven like weather.
Yes, and so not tomorrow, Sunday, we're supposed to get a bunch of wind, and that's the one thing about Las Vegas that I actually really appreciate is literally the calendar-like clockwork that that this city has on the weather. Like within 10 days of before or after a change in the solstice, it goes into its appropriate category. Like this year, June 19th, it went from beautiful, not even hitting 100 to like 105. We had like 2 or 3 days that were relaxed. So at least we know like summer will be nice and good so far. So
Hot.
Yeah, hot. I mean, what else can you do? Trying to stay home. Quarantine. So it should cool off by Wednesday. Sunday. The wind is going to blow through, and then we're going to drop down to like 90 something. So for a couple of days, and then back to it again later in the week.
So we'll get a little break.
Yeah, a few days of beautiful weather, as we call it. I call it beautiful weather. Coming from California, it was tough to get adjusted to, and that's what people like that live there say. Well, it's 90 something. It's like super hot. Yeah, well, they're used to 90 something with humidity. 90 something here is actually really, really nice. So
I know my cousin's like, I don't know how you do it. I was like, it's not that bad.
Dude, go bike riding, play baseball at 90 something, even 100.
Yeah, nice. But when it's humid,
yeah, well, forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Yeah.
So what do we got on the docks today?
So, I mean, the news has been talking about the spike in coronavirus activity. Of course, that's been kind of now the top news feed, because now that everybody's open and back in business, everybody's having a party and a ball, especially down in the South. And now, with the last 2 days, we're seeing the record number of spikes. I guess the United States had topped the world's. We got the record for the most number of cases in a single day of new virus cases. The American way, as I say, right?
We could go home. Oh wait, that's Texas. And Texas is seeing it. Florida is
Yeah.
getting really bad.
Oh, getting hammered. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the epicenter now of cases. Um, so I see Florida kind of turning into what Italy was back in February. I mean, they've got the right age of people
Mhm.
that is similar to Italy. You know, the at least Italy like shut the whole country down and did their best to try and manage it, but we'll see how Florida handles it because they definitely don't have the governor does not want to close it down. Him and Texas are doing everything they can to keep it open.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the residents are fighting against closing and
Right.
wearing masks, and so I mean, the government can try, but if nobody's going to cooperate, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Talking about that, masks are now required in public for here for us here in Nevada.
Here in Nevada. Yep.
Hmm.
Sisolak
Yeah,
made that requirement this week.
correct. Yep. And so here's what I want to talk about this since we're touching this subject is the mayor posted that there is no law and it's not illegal not to wear a mask, and so you can't people can't call the cops because there's no law against it, and there that may be true, and that is the case. However, this is just something for people to just keep in mind, be thoughtful. You got to be kind, you got to be respectful to others. People feel safe with the mask, people feel comfortable with it. Just because you don't agree with it, just because you don't believe that this is happening, just because you don't want to do it doesn't mean that there's others that feel the same way. And so just be respectful, just kind of how you cover your mouth when you cough and you sneeze, whether you want to or not. That's just courtesy. And
Well, so I can hear the response on that statement, and the response to those from certain group of folks is going to be, well, it's my right to not
mm,
wear it. That's the freedom that I have. You know, I don't have to be told what to do. You know, I am an American type thing, and that is correct. But the one thing that that you kind of have to like step back from is like, and I guess the other statement that that would be in that same kind of group of conversation would be, um, I'm healthy, and other people are, if you know they're gonna die, they're gonna die. The point of what I'm getting from you is that you can have it and pass it and be healthy and fine. Yeah, that's not going to affect you.
mhm.
But do you want to be responsible for helping other people die in that sense? You know?
Absolutely. And the other thing is, if my the way I feel, it has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with
Oh
government.
yeah,
It has nothing to do with that.
it's
It's just
nothing.
it's just a matter of being respectful and being mindful to others. Just because you don't agree with it, just because it is hard to breathe. I mean, trust me, I have bad allergies and bad sinuses, and so yeah, putting a mask is an inconvenience, and I personally don't like it. But it doesn't mean that I won't do it because others feel safe with when they see others wearing it. And maybe we don't agree on that. Maybe the people listening to this podcast, you guys don't agree with wearing a mask, and yeah, you feel that it's your right to decide whether you wear one or not. But it's not about that. It's just about being respectful, being kind, just like we're being kind on other matters. Just this is another thing to put in that and be kind and just show a little bit of love and respect for our neighbors.
Yeah, for the neighbors, totally, totally. Well, I mean, people that want to make it a political issue can make it a political issue, but
Mhm.
that's not the point. That's not the point of any of it. That's an excuse for you to kind of go with it. Just pull that portion out of it and recognize the numbers. I mean, we're all in the sense that we are all in it together. You know, we've all got to do our part to help each other out until there is a solution. It's not going to be forever. There's going to be a time that they figure out how to get this. Hopefully, it's this year. Most likely, it seems like it's going to be next year. But if it goes a little longer than that, then it goes a little longer. It's okay. It's not forever.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's sometimes it's not about us. It's it's about our loved ones. Like you have kids, you have a wife. Just maybe you don't get it. Maybe you can deal with the side effects, but how would you feel if your kids got it? I mean,
Right.
that's not something that I wish upon you or anybody. So that's part of what I'm saying is just, yeah, it sucks to be indoors. It sucks to be quarantined. It sucks to not be able to do the things that you normally would do. But it's a small price to pay for the safety and well-being of your loved ones.
Yeah. Absolutely agree, sir. 100%.
Moving on.
Yes. So, yeah, coronavirus spikes. We've got probably lockdowns on the horizon. I mean, it's nothing new. We kind of expected it, especially with the way things are going. It's, I don't even want to get into the perspective of other countries and how they see us right now, but whatever. Just roll with it and have fun with
Yeah.
it. So, but at the same time, while all of this is happening, the real estate market and our economy are still hitting strong. I mean, there's just progress being made as far as the return of our economy. In the podcast we talked about yesterday, that V-shaped return, it definitely is looking in that direction. How this new coronavirus thing impacts that, well, we will figure that out. It's probably going to kind of give it a curve, I think. But as far as the real estate market goes, it's definitely allowing folks to get out there and shop, and it has not slowed down the buyer demand, has it?
It has not.
You got those
Uh,
numbers?
I do get those numbers. Let me give me 1 second, guys. I guess I didn't have the numbers, but just talking about it really quick. 840 new listings came on the market, and almost 1,300 homes came or went into
Into
contract, and
contract.
that's just insane.
500 more. So we're still
Hmm.
seeing increased demand, not enough listings going on the market.
Correct.
And, you know, something that I came across on a news article, there we go. So 840 new homes on new listings, 1258 uh, that went into contract. So we're still
It's
seeing
almost
that
double.
almost, yeah. We're seeing that buyer demand outpace the amount of inventory we've got. And so one of the articles that came across this week was about forbearance, right? And how there have been many who have worked with their lender to help defer a payment of sorts. Um, in case you missed it, the CARES Act that was enacted in April requires lenders to allow to that forbearance to take place if you've been impacted by the COVID virus. And one of the cool features in that law that most people aren't aware of is that under this particular feature, the the rules allow you to, if you repay all of your past payments and get it back into good standing, you can qualify for a new loan. That's super important because previously any sort of forbearance, uh, regardless if you got it back into good standing, would require you to wait for 1 year. Those were the lending rules before you can get a new loan of any sort, so refi or anything else like that. You were locked into that 12-month period. But if you get that back in good standing, the CARES Act allows you to be able to get a new loan. So how does that translate to you? Well, if you've had a shift in your income or whatever, you need downsize, upsize, you can sell and purchase, and that will help you in that segment be able to move forward with that.
Yeah, and one of the other topics is evictions, because evictions are going to start,
Yep,
and
the
unfortunate.
moratorium.
Hmm. Yeah, so a lot of people are going to be affected by that. I've heard a few cases on the news about it, and it's just sad because unfortunately not everybody's back to work, and you know.
That's right. So the moratorium for evictions and foreclosures is coming up here at the end of the month, right? Or is it next month?
I think it's end of this month. Yeah.
End of this month. So there's probably going to be a spike, not just in evictions, but for those, let's say, investors who have like multiplex properties and tenants who didn't pay. The other factor is that there might be either an increase of multifamily homes and or foreclosures that start down that path, because now the
Hmm.
banks can do stuff with that. So there's going to be some sort of domino effect that we're going to watch and pay attention for coming into that. But what that does, though, is that creates an opportunity for some buyers. The chief economist for NAR mentioned he wrote a commentary last week about how to increase home ownership. Specifically, the article was targeted how to increase African American home ownership, but really the principles apply to anybody who wants to purchase a home. And how can we do that? How can we help folks take advantage of the market with where we're at and what we see what will be to come? So the 5 points that he brought out were pretty um, logical. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same stuff we've been talking about for uh, for buyers in this community. In his commentary, he talks about new construction. We need more new homes to increase supply. So we talked in the podcast yesterday about new construction there being a spike back in April. And that just fuels that conversation. That definitely supports that statement where new construction, we're going to see, more starts, more filings for new homes. And we need to increase that segment of the market, that supply, because when that opens up, that creates a chain effect for current homeowners who want to get in there. And then that opens up new inventory all the way down the way. So if you see new construction going on and you see another area, plot of land that's being graded, that's a positive sign for our economy that we're moving forward. But we definitely need some more increase in supply on that. Speaking of which, we've got a few happening over in Craig Ranch area.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Craig Ranch. That's whole. I mean, I've lived in this area since 2005, and that was just a vacant lot for the longest time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
then Craig Ranch Park came. They built that. That was pretty cool. And then there's been this talk for the last like year and a half that they were going to build something there. That city wanted to expand Craig Ranch, and now we're seeing construction across the street, uh, right on Restaurant Row. I mean, no better place to be.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And so they're really trying to, make that segment of North Las Vegas more urbanized, more modernized, really,
mhm.
which, takes us back to the North Las Vegas stigma. North Las Vegas is not what you think it is because it goes all the way to Decatur, in the Northwest. So,
if if you've ever heard of a community called Aliante, that is
mm,
in North Las Vegas,
that's right.
and it is a beautiful neighborhood.
Right.
Very similar to something you would find in Henderson or Summerlin, like Anthem's. What is it, Anthem? That
Mm-hmm.
something similar to that. So gated community. There's a golf course, guard gated community. So just very different from the most people's expectation of North Las Vegas.
Right. Yeah. The Waterfalls community is out there just behind that. And in fact, in between those two, that entire plot of land was kind of like the way it was by Craig Ranch. I mean, it's just been desert.
Yeah,
It's like this big block of desert in the middle of nowhere. Now it's all graded, and that's going to be probably another major community right there, technically North Las Vegas. So
yeah.
there's a lot of new stuff happening out here, and in what we call the bedroom sleepy part of the town. So lots of cool opportunity happening here,
And,
especially in the new home construction.
and one of the cool things is that it's just because it's got that stigma,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get a much lower price home, same size home, than
Right.
you are in other places in the city.
Yeah. So like KB, Harmony Homes, Century Homes, they've all been targeting these areas because they can develop these new homes, which is great, definitely. But you got a buddy over at LGI, and they've got a really, really cool model, like different business model. After learning about them, um, I mean, in fact, you had a listing there for a few months inside of their new home community out there on the North Las Vegas. Just being able to have that variety of options of new home communities, um, they are here represented well in Vegas.
Well, just think of Craig Ranch. Their starting price is like 265, and that's I want to say Century Communities, $265,000 on a new home, not a townhome, not a condo. Uh, if you go to Inspirata, I mean, Inspirata, you're a brand new home, you're talking about 350, 375 before any upgrades. And you're probably going to get something more of a townhome feel or something with a shared driveway where here you're actually getting, in a backyard, a driveway, privacy of having a home for under 300,000 brand new. So I don't know where else in the city you could match
Right.
that.
Right. I mean, just the two words new home and median home selling price. I mean,
Hmm.
typically that structure is new home is always higher than the median home price. But to get a new home under the median price in Las Vegas, well, I mean, it's
Well,
phenomenal.
at 265, I'm thinking after you do the upgrades, after you upgrade the flooring, the counters, you're at the medium price of
Right.
Las Vegas.
Right.
Uh, but
Which
in
is awesome.
everywhere else in the city, you're gonna start at the medium
Start
price
right.
minimum.
Yeah, that's base price or more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and so that's why North Las Vegas we see as being just a fantastic opportunity. In fact, that's the other point that Yun was making is that build more homes in opportunity zones. Well, again, I'm not going to go into specifics on it, but I mean, North Las Vegas has this stigma that many people think about when they hear about it. Um, and while all these areas we're talking about are not technically opportunity zones, there are areas near and around Las Vegas that are uh, and these new home builders are building in those zones, and so we can actually see new home prices start even lower. There's just an increased demand, and it's in areas that most people don't want to be a part of in that sense. But um, got to be careful with that statement. But
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody, when you Google, where should I live in Las Vegas, you'll probably get something like Summerlin, Henderson,
Mhm.
Inspirada, right? And although, I mean, those areas are beautiful, financially speaking, not talking about anything else other than financially, um, you're going to pay more in taxes. You're going to pay higher HOAs. You're going to pay possibly SIDS and LIDs. So your monthly expenses. Yesterday, I was showing homes. I showed one in right at the edge of Lone Mountain area and Summerlin, um, and then I showed another one over by like 95 and sorry, Buffalo and Summerlin Parkway area, and the taxes were about $400 different on a small condo. And so what does that mean? $40 more in HOA, $400 more in taxes. Well, now we're talking that your affordability goes down.
Portability, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so financially speaking, if you're looking for something that looks that is brand new, that has everything modern, you don't have to worry about it for the next 10 years, but you're on a budget or you just don't want to spend that much, well, then you should definitely see what's in Las Vegas.
Yeah. And so the other 3 points that he identified are, and I'm going to bullet point these as we go into it. Uh, the first one being increase access to down payment assistance, strengthen FHA loan programs, and expand alternative credit scoring models. And those three segments take us into those 3 points take us into the new segment that we're going to call "This is not a sponsorship or a paid advertisement." So as we get into those points, I'm going to bring in our guest speaker. I'm going to stand by for 1 minute, 1
Our
second.
local
Actually,
expert.
10 seconds. Local go-to expert.
So while Jared's bringing our guest in, the one of the points on the alternative credit is to use alternative history, such as rental history and some other items. And so our guest will talk a little bit about that.
So I switched microphones.
I can tell.
Okay, good. Good to tell. Welcome, Gabriela Macal. This is our local, my local resident. Gabby is our go-to person for lending. She is part of a mortgage broker who is in multiple states. Again, this is not a paid sponsorship, so we're not good. We're going to avoid all those labels and titles. But she works with a gentleman here who is one of the top lenders in town, specifically about down payment assistance. And so, one of the reasons why we took these three bullet points and put them here is so that we can kind of get some feedback from her on that. We know that down payment assistance is an interesting topic. The increased access for it is super important. I have found, and we have found in our conversation that with buyers and sellers, that they don't get a lot of access to it with all of the lenders. And working with someone who can do that or knows how to do that is super important. So, welcome.
Thank you.
And so, with regards to down payment assistance, um, there has been some changes recently on the qualifications for DPA, right?
Yes. So we do, there's still multiple different down payment assistance programs that people can benefit from. Everything from just having a lower interest rate to having all of your down payment and maybe some additional amounts of your closing costs covered. They all have different restrictions. So I would say probably have about 20 different options, but all of them will have different requirements, from FICO scores to income ratios, income limits, which just recently went up this week, I believe.
Mhm.
So now it's a little bit more attainable.
Right.
Mhm.
So
To,
with down payment assistance, for those that don't know, down payment assistance is grant money, right? Is that the right word?
No.
Okay.
So they're second liens
Okay, they can.
with deed restrictions that can range anywhere from 1 year to 30 years.
Okay.
So let me ask this for our viewers. When you're talking about deeds, when you're talking about liens, what are you referring to that? Because not everybody's well versed in these terms.
So depending on the program that you're using, these second liens, so they're considered silent seconds. So they're a lien that is placed on the property as a second lien that you do not normally are not required to make any payments on. They're at zero interest, no payments, and they're forgivable after a certain period of time, depending on the program. So some of them are prorated, which means that they're a 3-year silent second lien. They will be they may be prorated, and each month you take that. If the amount is 10,000, you take that 10,000 divided over 36 months, and each month that 1/36th amount is forgiven and released. So should you sell or refinance in that 36-month period, you are going to be paying what's remaining from that proration with that refi, with the payoff. Now, if you wait, usually once you wait for the whole period, it'll be forgiven entirely. You'll never have to pay a penny of it. But should you need to refi or sell, then you will have to make those payments.
So they're not
So
locked in per se.
it's a second loan for the amount that I needed for down payment that gets forgiven over a certain period of time. So as long as that I don't sell or refinance during that period.
Yep.
To benefit fully from it, you can do it within that period of time, but because of the prorations, you would only pay off the remaining amount that you did not use or that wasn't part of the time, right? So if you sell 2 years into it, then that last year is going to have you got to pay that back, that portion.
And okay, yeah. And so just to clarify that.
And right now, and sometimes right now we're doing a lot of refinances because even if that term is not up yet and they still owe them an amount on the assistance money, it still sometimes makes sense to refinance and add that over onto your loan, because the benefits of getting that much lower rate, it's worth adding that 3,000, 5,000, whatever it is, the amount that you still owe on that second lien. So there's still no prepayment penalty on it.
And who qualifies for down payment assistance? Because that's one big question I always get is I was told that I don't qualify, or I was told I can.
Well, the biggest factor is, I mean, every program has different requirements. Some might allow you to go down to a 640 FICO. Some might require a 680 or higher FICO. So it's really one of the biggest things right now is that they cannot own a home. They usually do not have to be first-time home buyers unless they're doing a specific first-time home buyer program. But you can sell your home and then the next day use the assistance to purchase another home. So a lot of these programs, they don't require a first-time home buyer. They're just going to be specific to their credit score, their FICO scores, their income limits. and their debt to income ratios. So obviously, the higher the score, the lower the debt to income ratios, and the more chances you have of taking advantage of these programs.
And you mentioned credit score. So, what is the minimum credit score that somebody can buy a house with?
There's different requirements, but usually for FHA and VA, you can go as low as 580. And there's times with compensating factors, you might even be able to go lower than that.
But a 580 score is not going to qualify for down payment assistance.
No, 640 is the lowest we see on the down payment assistance programs. But there are other programs that might be available that might have lower options.
So at the end of the day, because of all the options, it's super important that somebody, if they're thinking about it, talk to some experts, specifically a lender who is well versed in all of the options so that they can understand which one would they can benefit from.
Yeah, that's usually what we say. Let's start with the application. Once we review, then we'll see which criteria you fit in. So if your main goal is to get down payment assistance, you've worked on everything else, you have a great profile, you just can't get that savings for your down payment, then there's going to be options for you to be able to purchase your home.
And I guess that's why it's important, right? Because I get a lot of sometimes a little bit of fight with applying. They just want to know what their options are, and so in order for you guys to be able to really give a proper answer, they would have to apply, correct?
And in fact, you had the you kind of had a real world experience there, Isaac, with that. Someone can say what their credit score is. They can say all their debts, but unless you see it on paper and really kind of see everything that's there, they really can't. You can't really give somebody a quote unless they're looking at it. So the important factor is putting the application with to really get a true answer with that. Everything else is just speculation, right?
Correct. And I mean,
on the website, you can go direct. Anybody can go on the website and see the Nevada Housing website, Home is Possible, which are the most widely used down payment assistance. You can go on there and see all the rules. What couple things to keep in mind is that the income limits are household income. So it's usually not going to be individual income. If you're married, your spouse's income is going to be included in those limits. But like I said, every program has different rules. One might need the spouse, the other one might need the household income. The other one might need the co-signer's income. So just depending on the loan type, then you have to specifically see what are those guidelines and restrictions. And one new thing that changed as well in the recent weeks, is that now FICO scores under 660, I believe, or 680. I don't recall which one it is. You have to have reserves. You have to have savings in the bank. Even if you're using these down payment assistance programs to cover all your down payment, you still have to have a certain amount of months in reserves as a savings, and that cannot be gifted. So if this is something you're looking to use, then you want to make sure that you're still saving money, because if your FICO score is not as strong, you still need to show that you have a savings after closing.
Certain
awesome.
technicalities. Again, back to talking to the experts. So, our mission has always been to get people the right information the first time, and this is a perfect example as to why who we pick is super important, and why who you work with is going to be valuable. Simply because if you did not have some of this information, you can find yourself in a contract, and possibly a week before closing, before all of these details surface, and now you've got to figure out, how can I close making some quick adjustments, or I'm going to cancel, and I might even lose my deposit money, in that.
That is a horrible spot to be in.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the down payment assistance factor, huge opportunity for anybody who definitely wants to pursue home ownership. This is an area that, Isaac, you and I have been well versed in. We try and focus on helping folks, especially first time home buyers, get in there and use this. We've had some phenomenal experiences with that. Anybody can ask us for the links, but we've got some really cool experiences with our clients getting in with that particular program. on that. So thank you for joining us and explaining that. And that does it for this segment.
Thank you, Gaby.
This is not a sponsorship or paid advertisement.
But yeah, I mean, just talking, even though it's not a paid advertisement, I do want to give kudos to Gaby and her team because they've saved deals for us. They've been able to help some of our clients, you know, save money. I know with you threw it out of the park. Or what do you call it? You hit it out of the park with your client. What did she get? The $300 credit? Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah. So Maria is my case study in this
Yeah.
DPA program. I mean, she was the best experience possible like you can have. This is not typical, but in her case, she had worked, I think, for like 9 months on improving her credit, like literally establishing it, getting it up. She got her points up to like over 660 or 680 or something like that. I think it was close to 700. And so when it went time for shopping, she gave me the criteria. It was very easy criteria, especially in the hottest market. Like it was back in our, 2-month inventory experience of 2017, where there was multiple offers being, made and everything. And in that environment, we took her with a DPA program, got seller's contributions. There was some adjustments on the lender side. At the end of the day, she walked into that transaction, into her house, and what typically would be out-of-pocket expenses turned into a $400 credit for her towards her principal at the closing. And so she was my one rare case where you can essentially get paid to walk into it. And that house that she bought 3 years ago is now $50,000 in equity, which is great.
Did you mention she got a certification on her roof?
Did she get certified on that? No.
I believe there was a roof issue and you had to have a...
That was somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hers was fine.
But yeah, that $400 credit, I mean, walked in with zero money and got a $400 credit.
Yeah, seller contribution, home warranty. I mean, the works.
The works.
Again, not typical, but possible.
Right. And so we've had others, where we had, I closed 2 in, what is it? Like February, March, where they were like, they only paid for the inspection, which ended up being like $175, $190. It was $190. So for less than $200, they bought a house. Now, this is something I emphasize because if you go rent, you're putting a deposit down, you're putting sometimes a cleaning fee, a key fee,
administration
admin fees,
right.
First month's rent. So now you're at $4 or $5 grand, for a decent home, where buyers can move in with $200. That's just absurd. I mean,
right. And really the point at the end of the day, why is home ownership super, super important and really valuable to somebody's life? If you need a place to live, and B, you're going to be paying it. Now, where you pay it, if you're paying someone else's mortgage and making their equity and wealth kind of grow, well, then that is an option, and that's the easiest, least resistance. Or the other option is, put it towards your family. And if you really want to take care of your family in that sense, do everything you can to buy a home. Yeah. And so we're seeing that reflected in our buyer demand. We're seeing a lot of people appreciate that, and just in the numbers that you shared this morning, how many people we've got purchasing a home. Man, that was a lot. That was good.
Yeah. So,
one last thing here. Young had talked about expanding alternative credit scoring models. I've heard a couple of things about this one. Based on the current credit scoring models, they're looking to include rent and utility payments to help folks increase their FICO scores, and that is very typical for renters who that's all they have as far as their consistency in payments is being able to pay their utilities and rent, and having landlords be able to report that positively for them would be a huge win towards their qualification models. But at this moment, until those things are available on that level, talk to an expert. Let's help figure out how you can do it. It doesn't take much, folks. You know, even if you've got 500, sub 500 numbers, or low 600s, it literally doesn't take more than 30, 60, 90 days to see an impact positively in your credit report, so you can get qualified on that. And when you got all of those options available to you, it increases your buying capacity.
And even if you're not ready to buy today or in 30 days, but that is one of your goals, reach out, because I had a client, or potential client, reach out, and he's not ready to buy today, but he wanted to touch bases and find out what he needed. So he ran an application with Gaby. Everything looks top notch. His credit's amazing. And so now he knows that as long as he doesn't go and get 2 or 3 new cars and doesn't, rack up his credit cards, he'll be fine in 6 months when he wants to buy. And so where if he needed to work on something, well, he had 6 months to work on it. So
yeah,
it's better to be prepared and plan for it than be rushing at the last minute.
And it goes back to our first 2 steps. Whenever somebody gives us a call and say, hey, we're thinking about home ownership, I don't know where to start. First 2 things you always want to do: talk to an expert like Isaac and I, to be able to help you identify all the roadmap options that you can have and put those in alignment with your vision. What does your vision look like for your future,
Mm-hmm.
and how you want to do that? When we get those 2 things together and you talk to the mortgage expert, that's a winning team, a winning combination to help you have a phenomenal experience. So
Absolutely.
Got anything else to cover on that, bud?
No, I think we covered it all. And
right.
if anybody has been thinking about buying, refinancing, you don't know where your credit's at, reach out to us. We do have some credit repair agencies that we worked with in the past. We have Gaby, of course, who can help you buy or refinance. If you bought anything with I would say 4.5% or higher, 4% or higher.
Yeah. Anything that was purchased pre-2019.
Yeah, and you've been thinking about refinancing, and you want to see your options as to how much you could save, if it's worth it. And that's one of the things that I love about Gabby and her team, is that they're upfront with you. They're not just gonna sell you something just to sell it. They're really gonna look and see if it's actually beneficial to you. And I've had her tell my clients, you're better off just staying where you're at,
right,
or going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so honesty is key.
Enormous in this market.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my man. Does that wrap everything up? Do we got everything covered?
Yes.
You want to do your last plug while I clear my throat?
Again, today's mood is sponsored by coffee. So let's everybody stay in a good mood and enjoy your weekend. It's going to be hot, but it's going to be a weekend. So enjoy it.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Enjoy it. Well, folks, that does it for this episode of episode 6 of the Urain Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you found this information valuable. And if you did, please hit the subscribe button below. You can also follow us on all of our social outlets, which include basically all of the top ones that are out there. You can follow us on any of those matters. If you do have questions, you can reach our contact information page at 5-dg.com. If you wanted to text us directly or follow us on any of those links. Meantime, you guys make it a wonderful week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
And before we go, if you guys have any subjects or topics that you guys want us to touch on, yes. If there's anything, any content that you want us to push out, please drop it in the comments below. Shoot us a DM, shoot us a text. We'd be happy to comply.
We welcome your feedback.
Absolutely.
All right. Make it a wonderful day and a
have
fantastic weekend. Ciao.